Have you noticed when you go into a legal dispensary, most of the products say 0% CBD? Is that weird to anyone else? If it is, stay tuned. I'm Catherine Goldberg. I'm going to break this down for you. First of all, before we even get into why we started chasing these high THC percentages and what the consequences are, can we take a step back, please, and set some foundation here? Because there are a lot of new subscribers, and I'm so thankful that all of you are here. And I want to acknowledge that two things can be true at the same time. One, in a perfect world, yes, everyone would grow their own weed, or they would know someone who knew how to grow and they would get it from them. Yes, absolutely. But the fact of the matter is that's not how the world works, and that's not the case right now. Second truth, multiple things can be true at the same time. The products sold at the dispensaries can be not fabulous, and we can still be thankful that we have access to this legal cannabis. Yes, it's a complicated issue on so many different levels, but I'd rather address what's going on right now and figure out how to make the necessary changes. So as the industry evolves and as more people start to use cannabis instead of, let's say, other prescriptions, they have a better experience. Okay, cool. I'm glad that's reasonable, and we all seem to be on the same page with that. Where did this high THC percentage come from? So first of all, I've been loving the stories of people who were smoking in the 70s and telling me about how like energizing and giggly and clear-headed their cannabis was, and how unfortunately that's not something they experience anymore. And the fact of the matter was, in the 70s, the majority of the cannabis was testing at between, let's say, 2% and 8%, up to, the 14-15%. But today, it's like you can't even go to a store and see anything less than 27%. The consequence of more THC means fewer other minor cannabinoids. And that's a problem, because when it becomes all about chasing THC, we lose the entourage effect. And a consequence of that is that we lose the medicinal value of the plant. Like, our biology works with THC and CBD and minor cannabinoids. And when you have these products that have 0% CBD and only THC, it's like a weird psychoactive experience that's not holistic. That's really not what I think the majority of people want. With that said, I understand that these are the products that sell at the dispensary. So this is like a real catch-22, right? Like, and I don't have the solution. I think the more we tell our dispensaries that we want these other products, these products that are more balanced in THC and CBD, I'm hoping they will relate the messages back to the brands. Perhaps we can email the brands directly and say, this is what we want. But I understand it's hard. And I understand that there are some like small craft cannabis farms that have been turned away from dispensaries because the dispensaries say, we don't want your bougie weed. Like, we don't want 7% THC. Like, why would we sell that if we have 35% THC? Which maybe they do, maybe they don't. But it's unfortunate. It really is. And I have some suggestions, by the way, of products that are balanced. So it's not like there are none out there. It's just that it's not the majority. So, okay, so the mythology. So what happened between the 70s and now? So in the 90s, there was this myth that the federal government was working on this like top secret weed that tested at 28% THC. And that was unheard of for the time. The myth goes that they were working on this at the University of Mississippi, and a disgruntled employee took a clipping of that cannabis. It was called G13, and started to breed it with other plants. And that's when the rise of THC came into society. So that's probably a myth, but the G13 strain is real, and it is high in THC, and it's very low. And or I please correct me if I'm wrong, but non-existent in other cannabinoids or terpenes. Um, so it kind of became seen as like a status symbol, like how high could your weed go? And there are a lot of consequences of that. The first of which is that, so there's a term I just learned, I think like the youth are using it. I'm not that old, but it's called greening out. And I guess it means that like when you consume too much cannabis, you get like really paranoid or anxious or nauseous and you sweat. Like it's an adverse reaction. It's not good. So that makes me think that's like a high THC problem, to be perfectly honest. Second and third issues is that we have seen this rise in cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, where people become like violently ill from overuse of cannabis. And the majority of the scientific literature suggests that it comes from too much THC and the receptors get dysregulated, and that causes the downstream of problems. That may be true. It also sounds to me like maybe it's the fertilizers that are being used that are causing these reactions. It could be a combination of the two. I don't know. Third is we hear a lot about cannabis-induced psychosis, especially for people who have a genetic history of schizoaffective disorder, bipolar disorder, things of that nature, serious mental illnesses. Um, I just have a hunch that it's not so much that the weed is the problem, it's that the vapes that are testing at 98% THC are the problem. Like that doesn't seem like a good thing for one's body. So that's where we are right now. And I think that we a lot of us just want to see a revert back to where cannabis used to be, where it was grown outdoors with natural ingredients from a seed, where people are hand trimming the plant, where the intention goes into it. So we have lost that. And again, it's going to be a combination of big business and government and what sells and money. But I think we can do better. And again, I wish everyone had the opportunity to grow their own cannabis, but that's just not the situation right now. So I was curious because at my dispensary, all the products are 0% CBD, and they're also like pina colada flavored. Don't know what that's about, but it's not good. So I looked at my favorite dispensary in San Francisco, the Green Cross. And what I saw on their menu, the first two flowers were from Pure Beauty. They've been around forever. They've been around for like a decade. Pure Beauty makes a 1-to-1 CBD flower, and they also make a 2-to-1 CBD flower. So it's not like the options are not there. I think we just have to look. And I know Pure Beauty is sold throughout California. So I imagine it's in Southern California as well. A company that has always stuck in the forefront of my mind is Care by Design, because Care by Design is what they give to like the autistic children who are using CBD and cannabis, where it's like a 40-to-1 ratio or a 20-to-1 ratio. They actually go all the way down the line. So they don't have like smokable cannabis flower. They make vapes and gummies. The children are not using the vapes, and they make a tincture, I believe. So Care by Design, but they have an 18-to-1, a 1-to-1, a 2-to-1, a 4-to-1, and a 40-to-1. That's fabulous. So Care by Design also has been around for well over a decade. And I'm thrilled to start exploring their products again. So yeah, I'm curious what you guys think. Because I have heard from people in the comments saying like, it's weird. I go to the dispensary and like the products are 0% CBD. Like, what if I want the entourage effect? What if I want like a medicinal experience, not just a psychoactive experience? And I'm glad we're all on the same page and we're experiencing this together. I don't want the dispensaries to go out of business. I just want the brands that they carry to do better. Um, and I know that's asking a lot, to be perfectly honest. But the more that we move away from this narrative that high THC is like the only thing that matters, the more we'll get to experience like customizable weed based on effects. Because one other issue is that when your priority is high THC, the peak of the THC happens after the peak of the terpenes. So the consequence, even though it's not directly related, is a reduction in terpenes. And the terpenes, like, are what give cannabis the effects, according to everyone's experience and the peer-reviewed literature. So in case anyone would like to read that, happy to pass it on. It's well documented. So I would rather get back to low THC weed, major terpenes, especially the energizing terpenes. I don't want myrcene to be the first ingredient in anything I'm smoking, to be perfectly honest. And I think we can change. You know, weed has changed from the 70s to the 80s to the 90s into the 2000s. And I think we're at this impasse where we can figure out what direction we want to go in. And for all the people also saying, there was supposed to be a transition there, that they don't know anyone who grows their own weed, start asking around safely. But just keep your ear to the ground, because as soon as I started talking about it, I got like flooded with messages from farmers. And I am so thankful that I have access to this clean plant that's grown with love and integrity. But I want to make sure that the dispensaries are selling the absolute best products to the consumers who need them. So I appreciate that you're here. I hope we can hold these two truths at the same time. And I'm excited to see where the industry goes. I think we can do a lot better, and we will. So thanks for being here. Bye.